The year was 1987. Ronald Reagan had just assumed full responsibility for the Iran-Contra affair. On October 19th, the Dow Jones dropped over 22%, the largest one-day percentage loss in history. The FBI was in the throes of a full-scale search for the domestic terrorist known only as the Unabomber. And the good folks over at ABC? Well, they brought us one of the most synthetic, nauseatingly wholesome sitcoms ever produced. The plot revolves around the ridiculous premise of a widower who enlists the help of his best friend and brother-in-law to help him raise his 3 moronic, tow-headed daughters. Of course, I'm referring to the 80s-induced tripe known only as Full House. For 8 years, television audiences were subjected to the trivial exploits of the Tannerinos. And because of its placing in the ABC scheduled lineup and America's apparent need for sappy drivel, the show was a hit. It even managed to launch the careers of John Stamos and the disease-ridden Hydra, known as the Olsen twins. Now, you might think that my issue with this poorly fabricated program has something to do with the Deus Ex Machina that presents itself at the end of every episode in the form of a mind-numbingly obvious moral. Like how DJ and Steve should probably use a condom to prevent this family from seeping any further into the Bay Area. Other top contenders are the obvious use of a laugh track, the hilarious dramatic music that plays right before the cut to a commercial break, the terrible, terrible catchphrases crammed down the throats of the actors, and yes, both Nikki and Alex. But no, most of those things, as awful as they may seem, actually contribute to the show's begrudging charm. Instead, my biggest problem with Full House is Joey. That's right, Joey Gladstone. He's by far the worst aspect of an otherwise unimpressive television bowel movement. Not anything he says or does in particular, just his overall character. I can understand Danny, he's the anal, retentive, neat-freak father, and Jesse, yeah, he's a greaseball, he's a rocker, he's a ladies' man, he's the uncle. I get it. But Joey, just why? There's no reason for him to be there. None of it makes any sense. Let me explain. Let's start with his career. Comedian. I don't think so. Number 1, he's not funny. And number 2, he's not funny. His only supposed joke involves doing a mediocre impression of Popeye. I really don't foresee a career in comedy panning out for him. Later, he decides to become a children's entertainer, which, let's face it, he's pretty much been a birthday clown the entire time anyway. But again, my problem here, it's one of logistics. So he's on a children's television program, and on this show, Gladstone plays a character called Ranger Joe, who, with the help of his puppet woodchuck sidekick, who's brilliantly named Mr. Woodchuck, he bores children across the greater San Francisco area into a deadly stupor. So, my first question arises. Is Joey a ventriloquist? Oh no. No, quite the opposite. Actually, he never stops moving his mouth. So, to recap, a man dressed as a forest ranger puppeteers and speaks for a rodent dressed, for some undetermined reason, in a sparkling blazer, with his lips visible the entire time. Now, is this corrected with clever editing techniques? Oh, of course not. It's filmed in front of a live studio audience. Irony. Okay, so let's move on to Joey's living situation. There's a scene in the first episode in which the producers just wear out the laugh track as Uncle Jesse, the hard-nosed frontman for The Rippers, moves into Stephanie's old bedroom. My God, there are pink bunnies painted on the wall, chortles the imaginary audience. There's no way this is suitable to Mr. Casopoulos' gallivanting lifestyle. And, as hilarious as Jesse's misfortunes might be, they pale in comparison to Joey's arrangement of being shoved along with all his depressing belongings, into the alcove. And for some reason, presumably Joey's total lack of any discernible character, both Joey and the television audience just accept this. Granted, any place is probably better than the hovel his meager earnings as a Popeye impersonating comedian probably afforded him, but this is just asinine. I can just imagine the conversation between Danny and Joey prior to the story as it unfurls in the pilot episode. Joey, thank you so much for agreeing to uproot your entire life to help me haplessly raise my 3 terrible children. Why don't you just sleep on the fucking windowsill? Let's never mind the fact that I have a basement that can be converted into a recording studio, and that I have an attic that has the potential to house an entire family of 4. Just make yourself comfortable, asshole! So, in summation, was Full House a terrible show? Yes. Was Joey an awful character? Yes. No one's debating those facts. However, would Joey's absence have made the show any better? No.